What is going on, YouTube? It is Primitive here, and today I am bringing you a locals match that happened yesterday at RMC. Now, before we get into the match, I just want to say that we do have our first giveaway going on right now. If you are interested in entering the giveaway, go ahead and check out the tweet that I have linked in the description down below. We have a little bit over 24 hours left for you to enter at the time of uploading this video, so still have plenty of time to go enter for that, so go ahead and check that out. But getting on into it, I'm just going to build up right away, going straight up into a ShineGreymon. I go ahead and decide to promote here because I know that my opponent, if they want to get rid of it on board, then all they can do is Cocytus Breath me. And if they want to go ahead and play out the Cocytus Breath, then I'm not going to be too mad because they'll put me at a decent amount of memory. And then I decide to just play another ShineGreymon out here. I could go ahead and play a champion or something like that, but playing the 5 just to pay the ShineGreymon is going to be a lot better because now if they do decide to get rid of one of my ultimates, and I still have another one on board, can always threaten a Mega whenever they do decide to play something. And as we're going to see, my opponent is going to just hard play a Crisp Hexeblaumon here, so no champion to take advantage of the Takumis there, but wanting to get something out so we can go into a Hexeblaumon now. We can see their hand there. They had the Wargaruru, the Bulukomon, and the Hexeblaumon, so hard playing there does make a little bit of sense. You're going to put me at 3, which isn't the most memory to put me at, but you can start to go into the Hexeblaumon now if you want to. Digivolving to trash the bottom 2, which is a bit unfortunate, getting rid of the Upamon, so not going to be able to get any draw from that now. But as long as my opponent doesn't have something like a Cocytus Breath, then I'm not too worried. They can play Hexeblaumon out now, and that doesn't scare me too much because once I start getting into something like a Shine, then I can just get rid of Hexeblaumon, and I won't really have to worry about anything like that too much. So going to Digiburst to play the Kari here. Whenever the Hexeblaumon does attack with its security attack +1, we will have the Kari in play being active, so getting the Karis out now is going to be good. We are going to see the Kentaurismon come out, which is going to give security attack -2 to both of them, so not going to see them go for security next turn, but still setting up. I want to have that Kentaurismon out because I want to be able to threaten things like trading my Kentaurus into their Hexeblaumon, which would allow me to then give -11k DP to whatever else they had on the board, and it also allows me to go into Valderarm if I choose, and then Shine's going to come out. I only have the 1 Tamer, but I am able to take out the Paildramon regardless, and that's just getting rid of what my opponent has on board. The Hexeblaumon isn't the thing that I'm not super worried about. Obviously, it's a card that can be decently annoying, but with Shine and Valderarm, we have a bunch of DP reduction, so once we get later into the game, the Hexeblaumons will be very easy for me to get rid of. We saw our opponent go ahead and attack there. They didn't have the security attack, so no checks, but they can still go ahead and trash the bottom Digivolution sources, and I'm just going to right away go straight into Valderarm. So they'll go from 4 to 6, but the Hexeblaumon is gone, so if they want to start threatening that again, they're going to have to build up to another Hexeblaumon, and they have the memory to do it, but I'm going to just bank on them not having it. They've had a little awkward hand so far, and we've seen that, and then my opponent's looking like they want to just start getting aggressive. They're going to swing, which is going to trash the bottom of my Valderarm, so if they do get into a Hexeblaumon, my Valderarm will be shut down, but at the cost of paying 2 memory because there are 2 Takumis on your opponent's side of the board. And they're just going to play a Gomamon here, going wide, 2 Gomamon, so they're going to go for the strategy of just starting to go wide. Yes, they're going to have to pay 2 memory to attack with these rookies, but as of right now, if they're not going to be able to build up into a Hexeblaumon, then their best bet is going to be start going wide. I'm going to hit the Ulforce Insecurity, so my Kentaurus does get deleted, but I get the on-deletion of giving -11k, so I do pop one of the Gomamon, so I do stop some of the wide board state that's going on right now, and I'm going to grab another Kentaurismon because I do want the Mega in hand. I have the ShineGreymon, but also just being able to shut down aggression is going to be fine, and like I said, having Kentaurismon in this matchup is something that I do relatively enjoy because if their opponent does swing with Hexeblaumon, then I can trade into it and get 2 deletions for the price of 1, so Kentaurismon is pretty decent in this matchup, especially with just getting the security attack -2 because we see our opponent going very wide. They want to get those extra checks, so going into Kentaurismon here is going to be something that could be very valuable going into the future turns because I could get 2 swings in with the Valder and the Kentaurus now, while my opponent's not going to be able to get too much. I'm going to swing now just to see if I hit the Hammer Spark, but I'm actually going to hit the Omnimon, so my Valderarm's going to get deleted, which will gain me 3 memory, but I'm not too worried about it because now with that extra 3 memory, I can go into Shine and still have it be my turn, which I can clear the board, and then now I could swing there. I decided not to swing because I didn't want to potentially hit the Hammer Spark. I would prefer to develop there, and Digivolving and Raising is going to be a lot better than hard playing, even though if I did hard play something, I would potentially have the 3 checks to swing in for game next turn. My opponent just has the 2 Sorajos, so hard playing something like a Rookie, although may set me up for game next turn, is just going to give my opponent so much memory that they could likely just set up blockers anyway, so it's going to make a lot more sense just to Digivolve and Raising and choke my opponent at 1, and that way they pretty much aren't going to be able to do anything. They can build in Raising, or they can just hard play one thing to start to get Digimon on board and try to get some swings in. Now, there was an accidental kick of the camera there, so I do apologize of the shaking that happened right there. Hopefully that doesn't happen anymore, but going to be able to go into the Sakuyamon now, which is going to be pretty helpful in this matchup because it stops my opponent from being able to swing, and then I'm going to get 2 checks because of the Rise. Hitting the Hammer Spark did stop it from ShineGreymon just swinging in for game right now, and I go for the Upamon draw that I did forget it's mandatory, but it doesn't matter because my opponent just goes ahead and scoops right there anyway. So going into the next game, my opponent's going to have me going first because they know that I want to go second with this deck. So with that, just going to play around my weak spots. Now they're just going to play Sorajo, which puts me at 3, so I have a decent amount of options right here, but I also have to keep in mind that if I hard play things, that my opponent's going to gain a bunch of memory here, and so I decided to just pass because I get the Rise Greymon out, and I could play something like a Pulsemon, but my opponent would go to 5, so I can just pass and put my opponent at 3, so now they're going to just play the Paildramon, which is going to allow them to start going up into their ultimates, and then very shortly after the megas. So I decided to play Pulsemon here because although my opponent's going to gain the memory, they're only going to go to 3 because Pulsemon will put them at 1, and this way I can cycle because I have the Rise Greymon, but I don't actually have the Tamer to play yet. So keeping it in there is going to be a little bit better. I can cycle with the War Greymon here. I decided to promote with the Rise Greymon because if my opponent does decide to swing and tap the Sorajo with their War Garurumon, then either 1, I'll be able to swing over it with the Rise next turn, or 2, it will die in security. So although I will lose my Digiburst if they do tap the Sorajo on the attack, I don't have the Tamer out right now, and I can start to get rid of some pressure, but we're actually going to see them just go into Chris Paildramon, and I still have the 2 Digiburst on the Rise Greymon, so as of right now, that's still live. But like I said, if they do attack, they're going to have to get rid of it, but they then will be suspended at that point, and then I'll be able to swing over them. But instead of doing that, they're just going to go straight into the Hexeblaumon, setting up. But with the Hexeblaumon coming out, I am a bit surprised that they didn't swing with the Wargaruru and trash the sources with the Sorajo, just because that does give me the option to do that now, but it also makes it so that my Rise Greymons don't get shut down. But Digibursting to play Kari, and then Digivolving the Yellow Rise on top to get another Kari. So back-to-back Tamers I hit, which allows me to now go into Shine, getting the pressure on board. So now if my opponent does swing with the Hexeblaumon, it will easily get swung over. So they're going to check, trash the bottom 2 sources, so now that'll have 2 checks. Going to hit a TK, and grabbing out a Patamon here. The Patamon's just a really good card to grab out of security, because if your opponent's going to have a lot of aggression like this Hexeblaumon deck does, where it does multiple 2 checks, then you're going to want to have that security of the Patamon to be able to recover later in the game, especially if your opponent gets you down to 0 security. Then you can just start playing Patamons each turn to go up to 1, and then that way they're going to have multiple Digimon on board to be able to get those swings. So Patamons are very valuable in these more aggressive matchups where your opponent's doing wide board swings. So going to see a Davis come out and getting the resources that they need. Now they know that the Hexeblaumon is likely going to get swung over this next turn, so they're going to have to go into Omnimon if they want to unsuspend and keep it safe. But knowing that I'm going to go up to 5 memory next turn is going to be pretty obvious that I'm going to Digivolve on top of this Yellow Rise with some sort of Mega and then be able to swing over the Hexeblaumon. But going to cycle a little bit here, getting the Pitomon on top, then going straight into the Rise, giving -12 to the Hexeblaumon, and then being able to swing 2 checks at 14, and then another check at 14, which I do hit the Hammer Spark, which will end my turn, and then my opponent's going to go to 7 because of the 2 Sorajos. So the ShineGreymon having no sources is going to bite me in, but with the Sorajos, it's just really, really good in this matchup. Those Sorajos are insane. There's just so many times in this deck that you aren't going to have Digivolution sources, especially when you're getting them trashed so often. So now both the Shines have sources, no source underneath them, so no matter what I do, my opponent's going to be gaining 4 memory pretty much every single turn, because I can only Volar Arm on top of one of these, so one of these Shines, unless they swing into it, is is going to be stuck with no sources, forever boosting up the Sorajo. Now, swinging 2 checks, trashing the bottom, grabbing another TK, getting the one last card at the bottom, which is the Unimon. So now my opponent knows that unless I have Valderarm or something that's going to allow me to get up to 6, that I'm not really going to be able to get rid of the Hexeblaumon this turn. So they can just swing in. They don't have to trade in, worrying about the board pressure, because as of right now, my Shines are just completely shut down, as well as essentially my Pitomon. But it's going to be a lot easier to Digivolve on top of my Pitomon and get that back online. Now, Valderarm here would be pretty fine because my opponent is only going to have maximum probably 2 checks, because they have the Elecmon, which can get blocked, and then they can Lobomon here, but they would have to have 2 Lobomons to be able to get that pressure off. But as we know, I do have one of the promo Patamons in hand, so if I wanted to hard play that to get the recovery, then I can do that. But I need to try to prioritize getting rid of this Hexeblaumon, because as with everything on my board being shut down, I'm not looking in the best spot. So as we see here, there's going to be the Patamon getting up to 2 memory, so now I don't have to worry about the double Lobomon pressure. No matter what, I'm going to be fine, because if my opponent swings with the Elecmon, I block with the Pitomon, and even if they go into 2 Lobomons, they aren't going to have the extra swing to go in, and I'm never going to play around my opponent having 3 Lobomon in pretty much any situation ever. 2 sometimes is something that you can play around, but your opponent's very rarely ever going to have 3 Lobomon, and never is it really going to be good to Digivolve all 3 Lobomon on top of the Tamer. So playing around the 2 is going to be better. But we saw the Ulforce come out here, and with the Sorajos, I thought I was just going to lose the game right here until we flip over and see the Shine. There are no DP boosts on the Ulforce, so what could have been just a game-winning swing there is going to get shut down by the Shine insecurity right there. So now I let it go through instead of blocking with the Pitomon, because I did have 2 checks, so I wasn't too worried. I wanted to at least see if I had something in security that could stop it, such as a Shine, a Kentoris, or a Valderarm, or even a Tamer that could maybe help me if I do survive the next turn. But they just hit the Shine the first check, so looking in a very, very good spot now. I only have 1 security. My opponents had me on the ropes pretty much this entire time, but now I have them on the ropes because they only have 2 checks to my 5 swings and their 1 blocker. So unless something in here is a Cocytus Breath or an Absolute Blast, then I'm likely just going to swing in. Swinging 14, swinging for, I believe that's 15, and then my opponent's going to block the Pulsemon and then swing with the Pitomon. So a little bit of a back and forth games there, but I was able to take that 2-0 with the debut of the brand new Shine control list. Well, that's going to be it for this match. I hope you enjoyed seeing the debut of the Shine control list. Now, I'm going to have more content with this coming soon, including a deck profile, because if you haven't seen, the US is still going to have BT5 for another 4 weeks or so want to be able to build out and test a bunch of stuff, including some Shine control lists. So if you're interested in seeing some more of that, be sure to like and subscribe, because I'll have more content of these decks and many other cool decks coming up soon. But if you want to join our giveaway that I mentioned before, be sure to check the Twitter that I'm going to have linked down below, as well as join our Discord, because I am trying to build this community. We already have over 100 people joining our Discord. It's super awesome to see this community building, so I'd love to see you there. But with that being said, I will see you next time for some more Digimon content. I hope you have a fantastic day. Peace out.